Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the second part of the 3CX Basic training. I hope you are all doing fine wherever you are in Australia. We will continue with the session there where we ended yesterday after the IP phones. And of course, go ahead then with the SIP trunks. Quickly want to have a couple of things from yesterday. Of course, regarding the IP phones that we were discussing or that we were looking at yesterday, how to provision them, it's always meant in our examples that supported devices are used. So we are not going to show you any setup with devices that are not supported. You can, of course, use different vendors on 3CX. They generally should register as long as they are using standard SIP. But again, there is no guarantee that they will fully work, that they will fully function. And of course, a lot of these phones that are not from supported vendors are also not 100% working with all the features. I quickly have to close the Teams here. Bear with me. Doesn't make sense if we don't always get those things inside here. Yeah, so they are not meant to work 100%, for example, BLF keys or what else ever. And of course, there is also no full screen mode. There's also no guarantee that they will be supported or that they will function further down the track with version upgrades and all that stuff. As well as if they are stun provisioned, for example, it's not meant that they are guaranteed that they will function in the future or even now. That's absolutely no guarantee. The supported vendors are Yearlink, Snom, and Fanville. They can be found on the 3CX website. I will also add a link to those to the list of supported devices in that famous PDF that I mentioned to you already. Then there has been the request from people that I am going to read out all the questions that have been posted in the question section. As you might know, we are here on a live training. We have a time limit of 120 minutes for the chapters today. It might be clear that I can't just read out everything or whatever. That's just how it is. I am alone. There is no one else who does the administration. I have to focus on my schedule. If you have any further questions, if there is something unclear, feel free to shoot me a line to my email address, and I will then be happy to give you an answer on that. Absolutely no guarantee that I will read out every question that has been posted. And then again, another point that I would like to address is that these slides are officially from 3CX, and they have been handed out prior the price raise. So the pricing that was lined out yesterday in the slides is of course not relevant. It's what is lined out on the official website from 3CX. Okay, good. So in that regard, we go ahead with SIP trunks. SIP trunks provide access to the public switched telephone network. They transport via an existing Ethernet line, Ethernet DSL fiber, no additional local hardware required. You can provide international numbers. Outbound pay a local rate through their points of presence. Inbound show a global presence to your customers. Outbound pay local rates, that comes down to the setup of the phone system. We will see that then a little bit more in the topic bridges. in the advanced training. Of course, when you only have one point of presence that makes the outbreak into the PSTN, then you will have to pay globally for all the calls you make. If you have multiple points of presence, then you can limit the international costs. 3CX preferred and supported SIP trunks. They have successfully passed the interoperability test. They are preferred and supported, can be used on 3CX3 and SMB, for example, and they are supported with certain limitations. There is ongoing testing on their end. They are templated in the 3CX software. They are easy to configure and are fully 3CX supported. Additional numbers can be associated with every SIP trunk, route incoming calls to a destination based on the dialed number, for example, user, a department that's for the dedicated licenses, to system extensions, voicemail of a user group, forward to outside number that is also only available in dedicated licenses, fax service also only available in dedicated licenses, and to call flow apps, which is also only available in dedicated licenses. Adding DITs, add single DITs or import. You can add single DITs in the attachment of a SIP trunks. We will see that then afterwards. I have 2 DITs that I can add, or you can import them in that section there as well via text file. E164 format is preferred. We can use wildcards. If, for example, enter the star and then you add the last 6 DID numbers. As an example, we have here the +1 813 555 1234, and you just add the star 551234, and that then still will reach the correct destination because it reads the number from the back and not from the right side and not from the left side. Use the star wildcard for DITs, not for the main trunk number, as the main trunk number has to be available fully at all time. DITs with the wildcard cannot be used as caller IDs. Outbound rules, they allow or restrict called numbers, select SIP trunks based on criteria, destination number, prefix, so for example, calls going to numbers starting with 04, go to or are allowed to, from these extensions, go out via a certain trunk if you have multiple trunks. Originating internal user, originating based on department membership, dialed number length. So for example, if I say numbers starting with 04, that would define on our end here in Australia that it's a mobile number, and then of course the length of the number would be 10 digits. So we can literally lock that down to these 2 criteria. Set the route. The PBX will route call to route 1. If the route is busy, for example, it exceeded the maximum calls allowed through the trunk, then it will go to the next route. If the trunk or the route is unavailable, let's say the SIP trunk is down, disconnected, deregistered, then it will also jump over to the next route. If there is no second route, so no failover route in place, then the call will just drop. But that's just for the case if the trunk is already busy. So let's say you have 5 simultaneous calls over that trunk, 5 calls are in use on that trunk. So from that perspective, you would have to have a overflow, which would be route 1 then there. If there is something entered, you would be able to call out there. If you have no route 1 and route 0 is fully occupied with calls, then the call will drop. Same is with unavailable. Unavailable is not really that good because this means you can't do any outbound calls via that outbound rule at all if you have no failover configured. Emergency numbers, identify all emergency numbers. Make sure that you do not have users with those numbers, especially if you use 3-digit numbers. Do not create users 112, 911, 999, 000, etc. 112 is a originally European emergency number that is coming or is meant to become the international standard by now. I think it actually might be working already in areas here in Australia, but that's something that will come up. Then 000. 000, you will not believe how many extensions with the numbering of 000 I have seen in those years working here in Australia, supporting people on their phone systems. I always try to avoid when I do the trainings, when I do the setups, I always try to avoid having 3-digit numbering setups because just the system used to, not now anymore, but the system used to have by default the 000 as the first extension offered. Of course, it's a bad choice. I always try to keep people aware of that a normal phone number doesn't start with a 0. It's just like that. It starts with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever, but not with 0. And if you then have so 3-digit numbers, and you don't start a number with 0, so you can avoid that you add 000 as an extension. That's the one thing. If you use by default no 3-digit numbers, if you say, for example, I use 4 digits, you do not only have the opportunity to build a bigger system, but you also have the opportunity to avoid creating extensions with the number 000. Yeah. It's just that's just solely a security thing that I use in terms of not falling into the trap of 000. Again, that is my way to work around it. Everyone has his own way, but also then there I have seen numerous systems that had the extension 000 on it. And imagine there's an emergency, someone dials 000. 000 is not answering because someone is not on his desk or what else ever. And all of a sudden comes the voicemail from someone who works in the warehouse or wherever. Yeah. It's just think about that. Okay. Try to avoid these issues. Do not create issues for yourself. So try to already there when you set up the system, try to look to the future and how you can avoid these kind of things. Outbound caller ID, that's the number to show when you dial out. The default for all user is the one that is the main trunk number. So when you do not add an outbound caller ID on the trunk, it will use the main trunk number that you have added in the SIP trunk for the setting up the SIP trunk. Yeah. Then you have the opportunity on the SIP trunks, your trunk caller ID. You can set the default outbound caller ID. Ensure that this caller ID is a number that your customer owns. Overstamping is generally not working on trunks, so it has to be in a right number that is assigned to your customer. And of course, it also has to be in the right format. if your VoIP provider asks for a number in the 6.1 format, you have to enter the number in the 6.1 format, else he drops the call because he doesn't know the number that comes. If the number comes with 0 something, he will say not known on our end. If it has to be 03, 02, 07, whatever, enter the outbound caller ID with 0 whatever. If you add it with 6.1, your VoIP provider might say, don't know that number, sorry, call dropped. Okay, so make sure your provider allows the number that you set in the default outbound caller ID. Per user, that's when you, for example, have users that have DITs and they have to present their DITs on their outbound calls. That you do on the users, edit user general outbound caller ID. That outbound caller ID there is again following the same rule as the outbound caller ID in the main trunk. And trust me, I have seen systems where people added whatever kind of writing in there. So warehouse phone 1 or whatever they wrote into there. It has to be a phone number that is willing to be, so that is meant to be displayed, to have the customer actually reachable again when the caller comes, when the callee calls back. Yeah. So you have to imagine user dials out, called person sees a number, misses the call, wants to call back, and if that number is not assigned to any user, any queue or whatever, the call will fail. Yeah. So bear in mind, whatever you add inside those outbound caller ID fields is the number that is displayed on the outside, and it has to be a number that can be dialed back. Okay. Then we have the opportunity to have outbound caller IDs per route. That's inside the outbound rules. So I can have there, for example, based on the criteria that I have, for example, when I have to prepend something when I dial out of a CRM, and then I have to dial, for example, state-based, that the CRM prepends the digit, for example, then that gets triggered by the criteria. It sends it into that rule, and then in the route, I would have to do a stripping then for 1 digit, and I can then there choose an outbound caller ID, for example, for Victoria, so that the call literally shows a Victorian number to the customer, simulating that you call from Victoria. Yeah, you can do that as well for calls from New South Wales and all that stuff. Again, you have to own that number that you display on your customer. Yeah, has to be a part of the trunk. Use the correct outbound caller ID format. Ask your provider. Yeah, it's not 3CX's job to tell you how your provider wants to see the number. It's also not our job. It is the customer's provider. Except you use Breeze Connect as your provider, then you can come to us because we happily give you that information. But if you use whatever kind of provider on the customer's end, you have to check with them what format they want to see. Okay, let me quickly go to the questions. Fred, I guess I removed that little window in the moment when I needed it. That's okay. Michael Iford, can the outbound caller ID be the mobile number of the person or must be a number that comes into the 360 system? It has to be a number that the customer owns. And if your provider allows overstamping with a mobile number, you can do so, but most providers don't allow that. Yeah. And because you can't show another number, a number that you don't own over your network. It's just legally not allowed. Yeah. So you can have a mobile trunk and then you can send out that mobile number if that is a part of that mobile trunk. But generally, you cannot, for example, when you have a Telstra mobile number and you want to show that, it's not working. Except you have a provider who says, oh, yeah, we do that. And I doubt that you will have a provider who actually is allowing you to do that, to send out the number from someone who is of a number that is not from his own network. Yeah, it's just legally you go yourself then onto very thin ice. Jeremy, look, again, we have a tight schedule. We cannot go back and forth in the slides. That recording will be up in a couple of days, and then you can jump back into those slides and have a look at them back there. Okay, so let's set up a trunk. I quickly have to see where we open that one here. Okay. Let me quickly close Outlook. Okay, so we go into voice and chat, admin voice and chat. We give it a name. We choose the country. Then we choose on our end, we choose Breeze. You see already the registrar comes up. We enter the main trunk number. In our case, it is in 6.1 format. We don't need an outbound proxy. We enter the auth ID. We enter the password. We define the default route where the call goes to. And of course, we have not had any special setup yet there. We have no ring group, we have no call queue, whatever setup. So from that perspective, we lead the call to a extension, which is pretty simple. Then here we can add additional DITs or we can import them there. And then we save. And then we refresh the page. And then we see the trunk is up. Go into outbound rules and we add there an outbound rule. Then we say here calls to numbers starting with prefix 0 to 9, for example. It's pretty risky if we say 0 to 9, it's very risky. Feel free to come to me and let me know why it is risky. I'll tell you in a minute. Then we can lock that down more, that we can only call out from extension 101 so 1001, and only if the call has a length of, or the number dialed has a length of 10 or 11. I quickly pause that here, just to give you a hint why starting with 0 is risky if we just use the 0 prefix and no other lockdown like we have it here. So if I want to call, let's say, Afghanistan, Pakistan, to America, or what else ever, what do I dial when I dial to those countries? I dial 00 and then whatever country code is there, yeah? So you already opened the door for international calls when you just say 0. Yeah. Of course, you have the opportunity to lock that all down in the allowed country list. But again, you do not want to just say, oh yeah, I do a general opening there for 0 and that's fully allowed. You start already there in the outbound rule to lock down on a security level. Yeah, you say you are allowed to dial out to 03, so 02, 03, 04, 07. Yeah, because that's defining that you stay inside the country. Or you say everything that starts with 61. Yeah, and of course you go then to say you allow from department and you lock it down to a certain number length. Yeah. If you're really getting hacked, and all these attacks nowadays, 3.6 is pretty secure in terms of having the web interface, so the management console attacked. It's pretty secure there. It's mainly coming through the device that sits between the keyboard and the chair. It's mainly there that the intrusion comes through. I have seen systems where people went via whatever kind, email phishing or so with passwords, that they went onto the phone system and they actually changed the whole outbound rules. Of course, it doesn't help you then if you make that secure, but you have to see there's constant attacks going on those phone systems from outside. And you only need to have that very bad moment or condition that they succeed with whatever kind of username, password, or what else ever, that they succeed to create an extension or register an extension. Sorry, not to create it, but to register one. And then you already have the next level allowed that they can dial 0. Of course, there is then the allowed country codes and all that kind of stuff. But also that, yeah, it's just one more level that they have to bypass. So just make it clear that you say that you clearly define who comes or who can dial out. Generally, I would say do it by departments. It's easier because the departments you anyway manage and maintain, and then you define the length and the prefix that they have to use. Yeah, you can build that up so in a nice way, but just do not use 0. Yeah, 0 to 9. That's just you open more or less the door already apart. Yeah, it's just think a little bit about the security that you have to put into those systems, and you are the one who is responsible. It's not the user. The user has no understanding on that system. You are the specialist. You are the one who will then be there and has to literally figure out why they have all of a sudden $3,000 of international calls on their phone bill. Yeah. do these rules if the Yeah, so my rule, for example, now if you look, so Jason asked, do these rules still apply if the actual dialed number doesn't have the prefix or length specified EA 958000287, which is clearly for its 9 digits instead of, or it's 8 digits instead of 029, blah, blah, blah. So first of all, when you dial 9, just like the 8-digit number, you will not be able to dial out as of now because I defined it there as the length has to be 10 to 11 digits. Yeah. Of course, it would hit the prefix 9. Yeah. But you would not be dial out because the actual number that your customer dialed is a 8-digit length. So it's not matching this rule here. Yeah. So the second number that you said, 02958, blah, 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 that would be hit because it is starting with a 0 and it has a length of 10. Now, in that regard here, what I did is I locked literally the number length and the 0 out of most international numbers. Yeah, most international numbers have a length, they start with 0, a length of, let's say, 12, 13 or more. Yeah, so I lock it out with 11. Generally, I only would have had to say here 10. Yeah, because 11 gives me already an international number, so 0061. And then the rest of the number brings me up to the length of 11. Yeah, so from that perspective, when you just want to stay local, choose 10. Then you can say allow the 0 because you have to literally add the 0 in front. But what you also can do is say you dial out, for example, with 2 or 3 or what else ever without the 0, and then you prepend the 0 at the front. It's all coming down to you how you want to build up the system. But I only want to say to you, you have to be careful in terms of when you just say allow the 0 without the source control and without the length control. When you just say 0 to 9 in the prefix goes out that certain route, then you have built up already the first security hole. It doesn't mean that it has to be it doesn't have to be abused, but it's just something that in a worst case can come to the situation that it makes it easier for hackers. Rob, this is going to be online in the next couple of days. Darren, you ask about a more appropriate rule. It's just like enter this one. It's pretty simple, yeah? No call from extension in it, no length in it, just 0 to 9 and then go out route 1. And it's actually called route and not route. It's a French word. Most people don't know that anymore. Telecommunication has to be used to be once everything written in French, everything. So anyway, so just be aware, use always not only the prefix that makes the rule hit, also use a length at least and the department where the call has to come from. Yeah, unfortunately, that used to be all a part of the intermediate training. The intermediate training is gone now. I'm just trying to give you there a little bit of a hint. All these kind of things used to be part of the intermediate and advanced. That was advanced outbound routing, and we don't have that anymore in the advanced training, unfortunately. Yeah, might be something that we on our end do then once again as a dedicated additional training on that kind of stuff. Have to think about that. Again, I'm just 8 weeks into my job here, so from that perspective, I have other stuff to think and work on. Again, yeah, just be aware to not just open the door by saying blindly 0 to 9 and then that's it, done. Can we add more than one call from extension? Yeah. You can do whole ranges there. You can do extension 1001. Imagine like you print out from a Word document or from a PDF 1001, 1005, 1010 to 1015 and all that stuff. I say it's easier to manage it via departments because it's generally the departments that actually also have to go out to certain destinations. Yeah. And then you still can say you have a department that is called international calls, and you just add there all the extensions that are allowed to make international calls, and it's easier to maintain. It's much easier to maintain than if you have in the calls from extension source like 700 different extensions lined out and you have to go through that all. Yeah, it's just much easier if you use departments. Yeah. Okay. We finalize that here quickly with the call that goes out of the phone or comes into the phone. You see here, call comes into the phone. And then we have a missed call. And of course, we go then into the history and we call it back. And then you quickly will see my mobile that I hold in that is actually, it's ringing there. So yeah, from that perspective, outbound rule is working, inbound rule is working. So from that perspective, the trunk is set up properly. Clinton, I thought it was best practice to create an outbound rule per call type, like local, national, international, 1300, 13, 1800. Of course, that's definitely what you have to do. You have to segment that because also your customer probably doesn't want that everyone makes national calls, not everyone makes international or calls 1300 and all that stuff. This is exactly what I mean. But then also might be based on the customer, you might have completely different requirements that people have to based on certain special conditions have to dial out with a different caller ID and all that stuff. So from that end, it is very variable. It is important um, to keep it as simple as possible, but also as secure as possible. Yeah. And again, if you just create a rule that says every number that starts with 0 to 9 goes out this way without checking actually where the call is coming from, you already open the security hole door a little bit. Of course, someone has to actually come onto the system and then, for example, say, yeah, we changed the outbound rights to certain allowed countries or what else ever. And it's a first step. It's a first step when you say 0 to 9 and no source restriction or length restriction. That's it. It's all of that. Can also mean that people internally try to abuse the system or whatever. Okay? And again, in the end, it's you who configure the system. I only try to give you hints and things to think about. I can't tell you how you have to do.